In this episode, you will learn how to launch a SaaS business in the community space and how to leverage an accelerator to find your co-founder. My name is Alexei and I help SaaS founders scale. I'm super excited because we only started this podcast and YouTube series in 2024 and we already covered 9 amazing founders and we're about to listen to the 10th founder on this episode. My guest today is Hannah Forbes, the CEO and co-founder of Lima, a SaaS business for communities, which helps with monetization and engagement. And she will be diving into how to get product market fit and what the whole process involves, as well as how to actually leverage communities to work with communities. Super excited about this episode, so let's jump in. Hi, Hannah. How's it going?
Hi. Well, thank you. How are you doing?
Excellent. Thanks so much for joining us.
You're welcome. Lovely to be here.
We will jump into the founding story. But before, let me introduce you to the audience. So you started your career in tech at Sky TV. At the same time, you did a PhD in crowdfunding at the University of Liverpool. You then built a successful consultancy in crowdfunding, worked with a bunch of startups, and then basically co-founded Lima with a CTO who previously exited his business. And now you're pushing really hard.
Yeah, for sure. Lima has now been running for 6 months, and we're an AI community manager that helps people to run private communities like on Slack, Discord, and WhatsApp. Kind of have an assistant that is there to help them manage engagement. And most significantly, we help them monetize. So we have kind of integrated monetization tool to help them build a passive income from their community.
And in order to launch a startup, you also picked an accelerator where you expected to find a co-founder. And with Alfredo, you have a very successful CTO with one exit under his belt. I guess, how did you go about picking a co-founder?
So I'm very lucky to have met Alfredo via Zinc. So he actually, as you said, exited a business from which he started on the first cohort of Zinc. And this was the 6th cohort of Zinc that I met him on. In terms of the process of finding a co-founder, I really went into Zinc quite clear about what I wanted. And I think that's the first step. Be really clear on what you want and be really honest with yourself about your weaknesses and your strengths and what you need in a person. So for me, I was interested, obviously temperament and character and being able to respect them and then being kind and supportive was big. But from, I guess, a more clinical point of view, I needed a CTO, so someone that is interested in coding and building the product. And I need someone as well that had product experience launching products, because while I'd been on the business and kind of had, I guess, a founder role before, I'd never built a product or launched a product. So I went in with the kind of really specific skills that I needed, and then wanted to make sure that it was kind of a character fit.
Got it. And so how would you describe the business you're building now?
So Lima is an AI community manager that has a unique feature which allows you to monetize your community more easily. So to give you a case study, which I find normally helps people understand exactly what we do. If you have a Slack community, which is currently the platform we're using, Lima, every time a community manager asks a question, so they say, who has a good accountant recommendation, Lima will review all the existing knowledge within your Slack and provide you the answer, so the community manager doesn't have to. And what it can also do is the community manager will say, actually, we have an accountancy partner that we work with that sponsor our events and they're really good. And Lima will automatically include that in the answer. So they'll say, and by the way, Adam O'Rourke's accountants are really good. Here's a discount code that you can use because you're a member of this community. And then when the community manager, if they use that, then the community manager gets paid and Lima gets paid as well.
Makes sense. And at the moment you picked Slack as the first, let's say, community platform to go live with, right?
Yeah, that's right. The reason for that is because we've started with B2B communities. We felt that was the most lucrative space in terms of the market. And the majority of B2B communities are on Slack. So that's where we're starting. But the plan is actually to move to Discord and then WhatsApp quite quickly. So we aim to be platform agnostic. So Slack is kind of just the testing ground, but the plan is to roll out to other platforms pretty soon after.
Awesome. So let me ask you a question which might, challenge some of that community, let's say, thinking. I'm part of a bunch of different communities. Most recently, Hampton, which is a great community, mostly US, Canada, but being previously also, member at On Deck and a bunch of other communities. And what I realized is that communities do deteriorate over time, which is probably part of some sort of lack of engagement, maybe by a community manager. How would you tackle that? And I guess, does it actually mean that, let's say, if your tool is useful, maybe some of the members, or again, the community manager, when they start another community, they would actually take your tool and start kind of, seeding other communities with that. And that's actually real product-led growth, probably.
Yeah, for sure. So obviously the aim is to make a product that community managers love. And I think the specific type of community manager means that they're always going to be building communities, even if they're not kind of officially building a community. So if we build something they love, I think that is primary to our product strategy and our business strategy. But yeah, you make a really good point. And that I do see a lot that communities deteriorate over time. And I think that's because there's a huge lack of infrastructure for community managers. If you look at social media and all the different tools you have to support scheduling, content creation, analytics. There's a huge suite of data for influencers to manage their business and to manage their audience. But for community managers, we're actually, more people are using communities than Instagram every day. You've got 76% of internet users are part of a community. So there's a huge disparity in terms of the infrastructure that's available. And I think the deterioration is because of that infrastructure. Community managers start a community because maybe it's aligned with their business interests, or they've been looking for a community, so they decided to create it. And there's always enthusiasm and more implicit motivation there. But naturally, maybe as the community develops, the needs of the community don't align with the community manager. And at that point, it normally deteriorates. But with Lima, you've got a bot, supporting your engagements, making sure that it's constantly adapting to community needs because it's driven by AI. And then also it's a easy, low effort way for community managers to make money. So if they've got passive income from their community, the community is thriving and everyone's getting value from it, then I think the chance of deterioration is a lot lower.
Makes sense. So how are you going about product market fit, right? Because I guess you reached out to a bunch of community managers, including myself with Growth Minds, the community for B2B SaaS founders. And basically, what then? So you started doing some pilots. Can you walk us through how you were validating the product and how you're building the product?
Yeah, sure. So validation for the problem space was where we started. We spoke to over 100 community managers of all different platforms, all different types of communities. So we had university alumni communities, we had business communities, fashion communities, developer communities, like all types of communities and all types of community managers. And even within, I would say, about 5 communities in, the patterns started to emerging. And the main 2 problems that consistently came up was struggle to consistently create engagement, and I struggle to make money. And while our group was actually quite global, we were also acknowledging like the market conditions, especially for founders, who a lot of our community managers are. It's also really hard. So if something's going to fall off the priority list, it was community management. And we also got that sense from community managers that without them making money, it was going to be really hard for them to maintain the community. So validation was speaking actually one-on-one to community managers. Now, there are tons of techniques that we could do, but we felt that because the space of community is so under-researched from a community management perspective, it was kind of really important for us to speak one-on-one. So we did that. And then also me and Alfredo are already part of lots of communities. So we also just spoke to the community manager, spoke to some community members via Slack. So it was all very manual, actually. And we were fortunate because we were on Zinc, which pays you to basically do this problem space validation. We had the time to do that. And so we took advantage of that and did a lot of really in-depth research.
Mm-hmm. So what would be product market fit for you? Is that, let's say, for example, right now, how many communities do actually have your, let's say, bot inside their Slack? And then I guess that's the first step. And then obviously you want to start monetizing your SaaS as well. And that would probably be the real PMF, right, for you?
Yeah, definitely. And product market fit is the main thing we're working towards at the moment. So we have 100 waitlisted communities. About 50% are on Slack. So for our current product, we've got 50 waitlisted communities, and we launched last week our new product. So we've got 3 using it. And we're already seeing some glitches, so glad we didn't launch it too soon. And the plan is in a couple of weeks, we'll kind of more hard launch it to those waitlisted communities and then launch on Product Hunt. And I say that in this space where there are a lot of great community tools and community platforms, but community monetization tools, there's not many. So I think as well as understanding and recognizing that there are some obvious metrics for that indicate product market fit, like customers are telling you they love it, they're using it all the time, they're making money from it. I think we're also open to the fact that in this space, there may be other indicators of product market fit that we're still learning as well. So customers loving it and using it and making money are really what we're aiming for. But there may be other things that emerge as well.
Cool. And then you mentioned, okay, so you're aiming to launch on Product Hunt, which is a very solid platform for, PLG SaaS businesses out there in terms of getting a lot of, subscribers and users. And then obviously you do a lot of like reach out to your network, etc. How do you see your marketing stack evolve? Do you see any other channel working for you, or you just like gonna go with these 2 and then maybe not even do any other ones?
No, so we're definitely exploring a wide range of channels. I think channel product fit just as important as product market fit. So because we haven't rolled out the product yet, so we're not specifically looking at those conversion rates for our product, but what we are doing is building a community of community managers, actually starting with a hackathon that we're running this week. And so I've been testing some channels based on conversion for the hackathon. Now, it's not going to be fully representative of whether people download the product, but we have been using a suite of channels which include LinkedIn ads, which weren't actually that very successful for us. We did a kind of a video and which didn't really get much traction from LinkedIn ads, but we were using them. We also used LinkedIn automation for outreach. So we used Dripify, which I think is a really good tool. And that did really well for us. We had a 60% acceptance rate and 20% reply rate. And we got basically all our signups for our hackathon. We got 63 signups in a week for an in-person event, all from Dripify. So that's proved really well. And then the other channel we're using is via other communities. So we obviously want to make sponsorship easier for everyone, but sponsorship does still exist. So we've been approaching communities and asking to sponsor their channels and get some promotion on their communities. That is still taking its time, so I don't have enough data on that to decide whether it's worth rolling our product out in that way. But I look forward to seeing how that goes.
That's cool. All right, and so maybe it's a bit too early, but in terms of pricing and monetization, how do you think about that for your product?
Yeah, this is I'd say this is quite a complex issue for us and something that we talk about, and every conversation we have, we ask people about pricing. So we have I guess quite an interesting problem, because we believe that when Lima is able to provide distribution of millions, we will have a product that will provide better conversion and better leads for businesses. And the reason for that is because in communities, everyone is much more highly engaged, they're highly targeted. And when we're pushing ads via the community manager, who is a trusted, well-known person within the community, the conversion rate is going to be higher. So for those 3 reasons, we believe that we're going to have a product that will compete with social media channels in terms of conversion, not in terms of reach, but in terms of conversion. So realistically, our competitors are other social media advertising, but we won't have the reach for a very long time in order to compete specifically with CPM or any kind of metrics in that form. So we have to price higher, and we can only price higher if we give better conversion. So basically pricing is still a problem that we're figuring out, and that's part of our beta testing as well. So at the moment we just have affiliates in our affiliate offerings within Lima, so people get paid if people get leads, which isn't optimal, but it allows us to collect some data on monetization. And what that is showing is that conversion rate is higher, but when it comes to upfront payment, so people going on LinkedIn and putting in 50 quid or whatever, that is pricing that we still have to work out. So yeah, it's an interesting but difficult problem to solve.
Yeah, it's interesting indeed. All right, and in terms of challenges, apart from pricing, what other challenges have you encountered so far?
So I mean, many. I'm trying to just summarize what has been, a challenging, demanding, invigorating time. I would say that for me personally, my biggest challenge is being very open to everything being unsure and chaotic all the time. So when I ran my consultancy, it was very easy to keep everything within my control. And I'm very much like an organized, methodical person. But as a CEO and a starter, when you've got 3,000 things that you need to be doing, and then probably another 6,000 things that you could be doing, many of which could transform your business, you can't feel in control all the time. So I think personally, that's been my biggest challenge, is just being a little bit freer, a little bit more open. And I think I am getting there with lots of help from Alfredo. And then in terms of business challenges, we originally signed up 100 communities on a 10-minute type form. So people filled out that type form. It takes quite a long time. It was a difficult type form. It was asking people to price their community, quite hard, maybe revealing vulnerable questions. And we got 100 people to fill it out. And we were like, this is great. This is really good validation that there's a problem here. And then the first time we launched our product, which didn't include any engagement tools, it just included monetization. This was mid-December. So people were starting to log off, and our customers, our community managers, are predominantly volunteer and part-time. So that doesn't help. But we just couldn't get people to get the Slack bot. And it's a 30-second process. The main difference being that you're sharing your data from the community. So we did that. We did a Loom video. We asked people to sign up. No one did it. We kept getting out of offices. Then we just asked people, "What? It's totally okay that you didn't. This is all good validation for us, but why didn't you?" And we still didn't really get any responses. So that in itself is obviously a challenge. And we've since added more features to the product, and community managers have been really open to that. So it's a really good validation for us. We've now made a better product as a consequence, and we listen to our customers, and that's good learning. But I think also we didn't really know for sure why they didn't download it in the first time. So we took the worst case scenario and built from that. We said the reason they haven't downloaded it is because what we're offering isn't good enough. So let's make it better. But it could have been because people were tired, because it was Christmas, because communities had their last event at the beginning of December, so they weren't really engaged with it anymore. There were all these reasons, but we didn't know, so we had to take the worst case scenario. So I think it's, I guess, to summarize that challenge, it's moving forward when you don't have all the information.
Maybe it's also because a lot of community managers don't even have admin rights to the community, because there's another founder behind that community usually, right?
Yeah, that's also that could also be an option. Also, if you're on a free tier, you just have 10 bots. Now we found that so many of them are not used, so we think there is room for Lima. But if they go to add it and then they realize that there's not enough room, they'll be like, "Okay, I'll get back to that in January." And yeah, many of them did, but we didn't know that until we'd already pivoted.
Okay, cool. And then you mentioned you raised your pre-seed as part of the Zinc accelerator in London, and you're looking to raise, I guess, your seed. How are you going about fundraising in this environment?
So as with many founders, we just know it's a big mountain to climb. So we have been doing investor engagement work ever since we closed our pre-seed, really. So we've been for most of the VCs we've been speaking to, we've already had 3 or 4 meetings with them, and yeah, the classic mindset, always be raising. I don't think you actively always have to be raising, but you just need to be in constant contact with the investors you know are a good fit, and be transparent, be vulnerable, show that you're making progress, and show that you're approaching problems in an effective and a creative way, because at this stage they're most interested in how you approach the problems and the founding team. So that's been the main I guess the main approach is just always being in contact, being available, being transparent. And a lot of things kind of come into that. We already, we're doing quite a lot of content work, a lot of newsletter work, LinkedIn work with those investors to make sure they feel like they're very much kind of at the beginning. And some of them are even Series B investors, so they're not going to invest in us now. But building those relationships is really important. And I think, as I mentioned as well, we're doing quite a lot of content work. I think that's a really good way to make sure that you are, when you're posting stuff publicly, not publicly, we've got a newsletter for about 200 people that we send regular updates to. It's a really good point to reflect. And when you come to building your latest deck, you have those really clear milestones that you've already kind of started to nurture. So I guess nurturing audience, nurturing investors. We've invited them to all our events. Several of them come, so they see what we're doing. They speak to our customers. So just being really open and transparent, even when, like in December, it wasn't going that well. And we were thinking, is it good to have investors around at this time? But actually they were all really supportive. They gave us good advice and we feel we have a stronger relationship with them as a consequence.
Yeah, it's good to leave a bit of a trail of breadcrumbs, right? And a line so people can actually track and see the positive trajectory on. Yeah. Okay. And so then you also mentioned you next week are off to San Francisco for a few weeks, and that the Bay Area has a lot of really good communities, and you are planning to, plug yourself into that whole ecosystem. Why does the Bay Area have such a higher density of communities than, let's say, any other region in the world?
So I should say it doesn't necessarily have the highest density of communities. It has the highest density of, we believe it has the highest density of professional communities, specifically startup communities, which is where we're starting. And the reason for that is in terms of funding, investors, tech brains. It has the highest density of those.
But I guess, why is there not, or why are there not a couple of really dominant communities, right? Because you would argue that, let's say, in obviously you have more mature communities such as YPO and EO, and then you have OnDeck and Hampton, etc. And then you have communities around maybe a certain business or around a certain function or around a certain theme, like some crypto communities, etc. Why was there no consolidation of communities? Because there is a power law which also applies to communities, where the better communities just become bigger and bigger. Why does have the Bay Area have so many small, I guess, or big communities?
So I have ideas. I definitely don't know for sure. I think most successful communities are founded on business interests. And I think when you have when there's such a benefit to have a startup community for a founder, and then you've got lots of founders in the Bay Area, I think that's why. But I think I should be clear as well. We're not going specifically to San Francisco because we think that's where the only communities are happening. The reality is nowadays online communities are obviously online, and we can access them through many forms. But our product, I think, I really want to have it in people's hands and meet them in person and get them to download it and see them go through the onboarding process. So I think it's not just about being in a space where there are communities, it's also about being in a space where I can get lots of people using the product in person and see them kind of reacting to it in person.
Okay, makes sense. Awesome, cool. So let's move on to, lessons learned and a quick fire question round. So please share a critical lesson with us from your journey so far.
Sure. So I think the most critical lesson has been take preemptive breaks. In December, Alfredo went to Sri Lanka for a few days. He's really good at taking breaks, and I think this is something he's learned as being a founder before. He's good at knowing, I'm not feeling so great, I'm going to take a break, and then I'm going to come back and be refreshed and be more productive, and that's always the case with him. So take breaks when you start to feel not good, as opposed to scheduling breaks when you think you're not going to feel so good. I think just try and have that spontaneity in your life. Having said that, I am going to go to Las Vegas in mid-February, hopefully preemptively. So I think that is a big lesson. And I think it gets said a lot, And I am convinced that not everyone that says that really practices it through fear of losing productivity. But it's just been so obvious to me, even in the 3 months that I've been running this business, that if you're not really self-aware and you're really perceptive to how your energy is changing, it can be devastating for your business. So I think that's really important. And then I guess a more practical one, I think start testing channels before any specific launch. So I've been using Dripify for a year now, so I know how to use it. And I think that helped with our reply rates and our open rates. And you actually introduced me to Dripify, I should say.
Thank you.
Using channels and kind of warming channels for yourself, for your audience, before you expect results is important.
Yeah, and on the break, taking breaks, etc. It's definitely true. It's really a marathon, not a sprint. So you really want to be, playing the long-term game and not burn and crash quickly, because it is very easy to do, actually. All right, awesome. So let's do a quick round of questions. What is a book recommendation, for other SaaS founders?
So I actually do love reading novels. I think reading for me is like a big break. But for a business book, I absolutely love Obviously Awesome by April Dunford. It's about positioning and product positioning. And I think she's a great writer and a great person. So highly recommend that book.
That's cool. Who is the business leader or entrepreneur you admire the most?
So I think being a female founder, obviously always looking for inspiration of women. And there are many amazing women, but I think they tend to be in the media less. So the one that I see the most is Whitney Wolf Herd, and I think what she's done and her story is amazing. So I'm definitely inspired by her. But I would say I get a lot of my inspiration from peers, and seeing them approach and come through challenges is actually probably where I get most of my inspiration from.
Okay. What's a SaaS tool you use not many other people use? Don't say Dripify.
I can't say Dripify again. Okay. I don't know. I have to say I'm at the point now where I get quite a lot of discount codes from my VC. So I'm using a lot of tools that everyone uses. So I use Pipedrive for CRM, which I really like, but I think a lot of people use that. Use Xero for accounts. Don't know if you've heard of Xero. Maybe I need to expand my SaaS tool base. Meetsy. I really like Meetsy. It's a community tool that helps you meet up one-on-one with community members. I think that's really good.
Okay, cool. All right. Who would you like to see on this podcast?
I'm a big Notion fan, so I would like to see Ivan Zhao. I'd really like to hear about his product distribution.
All right, cool. And the last question, what's the best piece of advice you've ever received?
So I think as a founder, you've got to have a good purpose or a good reason to come back to why you are suffering. And I think for me that piece of advice, I can't remember who has told me, probably multiple people has told me, but be really clear on your why and use that to ground you.
Really good. Yeah. Okay, awesome. Well, thanks so much. I mean, it was really insightful.
Thank you.
Thanks for sticking around. If you want to see the show notes, please go to neoptima.com/SaaS podcast. Otherwise, see you at the next episode. Bye.